Okay. No countdown music. I better do the countdown music. Gonna do the countdown music now in case you're here already. It's a little bit chaotic. Countdown music. Here we go. Hey, okay, sorry about that. Oh, my hair's looking a bit wild as well. Sorry, we have no Yevgeny today, and I was just coaching someone, so sorry we're starting a bit late. Dear me, this is a disaster. All right, so hi everyone, welcome to our live session. As I usually do, would someone please do me an enormous favor and just type that you can actually hear me and that I'm coming through loud and clear. I'm feeling very kind of naked without my lipstick and stuff today, so apologies if I look a bit ghostly with this very dodgy hair thing going on as well. I usually have my headphones when Yevgeny is here, so that sorts my hair out a bit, but well, you're not here for the fashion, clearly. Right, please, somebody tell me you can hear me. AB, thank you very much for letting me know that you can hear me. Awesome. So while we wait for a few more people to show up, why don't I just introduce myself very briefly? Although hopefully most of you know who I am. I'm Gigi. I am an ex-Amazon bar raiser here at Day One Careers. At Day One Careers, we have, as you know, our extensive YouTube channel, which just gets more and more extensive by the day. It's very exciting. We've had 1.5 million views on our YouTube channel to date, which is awesome. But we do run a small, I would call ourselves small Amazon interview preparation service. So we have our YouTube channel. We also offer digital courses to help people get into Amazon. I was an Amazonian for 5 years. Yevgeny was an Amazonian for 3 years. We both did extensive interviewing. I was a bar raiser. And in that time, we both realized and could see that people who had very specific Amazon interview training did a lot better than those that didn't. And we didn't know each other at the time, but independently, we were doing our own little thing to try and help candidates through the interview process. I think Yevgeny was giving people secret squirrel interview advice at the end of his phone screens. And I started an initial YouTube channel. Both of us left Amazon and set up kind of little independent interview preparation services and then met each other and joined forces. We are completely committed to helping everyone kind of learn everything that they need to learn about the Amazon interview process. We are absolutely committed to the idea of equitability. Is that right? I don't know if that's a word. I think I just made that one up. So that's a new word, everyone. Word for the day. But trying to make sure that our type of expertise is accessible to as many people as possible. Lots of Amazon interview coaches out there, and you could easily find yourself paying many thousands of dollars. We try and make it as accessible as possible by providing tons of free content and then very affordable courses as well. So this is part of our offering, a free weekly coaching session. Usually it's the two of us. I do apologize. It is just me today. Yevgeny's wife's birthday today. Happy birthday. So he's off treating her to a very nice birthday. So has left me here to look after you all. So it may not be as smooth as it usually is because we usually hand off from one to the other, but I will do my best. So the way this works out is all I need you to do is just ask your questions along the box along the side. I will scroll through them and try and pick ones that I think are as useful as many people as possible. A couple of requests, if I may. The first is, please don't ask me really high level kind of generic questions. Hey, Gigi, I've got a program manager interview at Amazon tomorrow. Any tips? Yeah, a whole YouTube channel full of tips. So please, nothing that generic because it's literally unanswerable because it's so generic. On the antithesis of that, Please don't ask me very specific kind of technical based questions. Hi, Gigi, I'm interviewing for a network engineering role tomorrow. Can you tell me what technical questions I'm going to be asked? No, I can't. There are, probably double digits, thousands of job families in Amazon at the moment. And no one person can be that expert in every single one of them to be able to know exactly what technical questions you're going to be asked. So in that instance, I will probably ignore you for a bit. And if you keep asking it, tell you, unfortunately, I can't answer it. But other than that, I can pretty much cover, I would say, 95% of the questions that you have to ask me. So with that in mind, I will also say, please stay until the end. I have an amazing freebie, best freebie there is on Amazon interview preparation, I think, out there. So hang on until the end and I will give you that freebie. Right. So why don't we get going? I think this is our third week being at this time. So we're still kind of, things people are still trying to catch up with the shift in times. I'm sorry about that. I have to take my daughter to a dance class now, as one does. So we had to bring it forward a little bit. So I'm sorry if that's inconvenient for anybody. Certainly inconvenient for me having to sit outside her dance class for an hour every single Monday. But there we go. You don't need to know about my problems. Let's talk about your problems. Let's get going. So I'm going to scroll through here, say hi to people along the way. Hopefully we have some people come back who've been with us before so I can say hi. And let's get going. So hi, Mike. We have Sam. I'm very well, Sam. Thank you. Very well. Okay. Oh, okay. Hang on, Sam. I'm not sure I understand your question, Sam. So I'm just going to pull this up and see if I can try and understand it, Sam, and see how we get. So less people element in your answers, and I would be more suited onto technical roles, even though I described about people involved in my answers. Please, could you suggest any ways to overcome this? Sam, I don't understand the question. I have to be honest with you. So could you just clarify for me, what's the problem statement exactly? What problem are you concerned about that you need advice on how to get around? Because I'm not really clear on how the people bit and the technical bit kind of comes together. So if you could try answering that, asking that question again a little bit further down, that would be awesome. I just need to change my network preferences because my Wi-Fi has gone a bit rubbish. So I'm now just trying to get off Wi-Fi. Hopefully I am now off Wi-Fi and on my Ethernet. Let me just turn that off. Wi-Fi off. Hopefully this doesn't interrupt. Good. Okay. Right. Sorry. I'm now on Ethernet and the connection should be better. Sorry to have messed about there. The above was said by a recruiter. Sorry, Sam. Okay. I don't really know what the recruiter is asking of you, or sorry, just flipping to that now. I don't really know what the recruiter is actually saying. Because were you going for a people management role? Don't know. So again, Sam, I kind of need a little bit more context. Sorry. Okay. This one's a bit easier for me to answer. Can you repeat examples between phone screens and loop? Okay. So there is a big divide in Amazon in terms of how people feel about this. So what we advise here, and by which I mean, some people think it's fine, and they would expect it. Others think it's not fine. You've already cashed that chip in. Effectively, it got you to the next stage. Therefore, you can't keep rolling it out again because there's no new evidence. So the world is divided. So the advice from Day One Careers is do try avoiding repeating at all wherever possible. So avoid repeating in interviews. Avoid repeating across interviews in loop, so final stage panel, whatever you want to call it, and try and avoid repeating across different rounds. But that is very difficult for a large number of people. So if you are going to repeat an example, please make sure that you try and use it for a different leadership principle, which requires you to have written down the question that you were asked the first time that you then used this example for. So can you repeat examples between phone screen loops? Yes, you can, but the world is slightly divided in terms of how much people like / do not like it. So avoid if at all possible. If not possible, use the example that you're going to repeat for a completely different leadership principle, other than if you are asked exactly the same question between rounds, which to my chagrin does actually happen. If you are asked exactly the same question, I would suggest you say to your interviewer, I have already been asked that exact question by whoever in round whatever. So I'll give you the answer I gave them unless you want me to give you a different answer or maybe ask me another question. I hope that clarifies that for you. Right, okay, next one. So, right, we have Harry. Hey, Harry. Okay, so let's have a look. So, Harry is one of our Day One Careers course customers. So, hey, Harry, thank you very much. Let's see what your question is. It's in two parts. So, you have two loops coming up, one scheduled, partner sales manager, another an AWS account exec. Should you ask for both to be combined or better to have two bites of the cherry? Okay. And shall I do the second one right away while in the zone or schedule after your holiday abroad around mid-August? Okay. Right. So let's start with the first one. Should you ask them to be brought together or kept separate? If they are two fundamentally different parts of the business, so I don't know if the partner sales manager role is AWS or whether it is maybe retail or some other Amazon org. If they're two different orgs, they can't really put them together into a single loop. If it's just AWS, the odds are that they could potentially bring them together into a single loop. Should you ask for them to have one or have two bites of cherry? I mean, usually they would choose to bring them together into a single loop. So the fact that they haven't chosen to do that probably says something about how the teams within those orgs feel about it. Because the challenge is when you bring together into a single loop, you reduce the number of people in any particular organization that get to be involved in the loop, because effectively you split the loop down the middle. Half of your people, like 3 of them, will come from one team and then 2 of them will come from another. And lots of teams don't like doing that because that effectively reduces the number of people from their team that get to meet you and get to gather data. In terms of if it creates an advantage for you, I don't really have a view on that, actually. I'm not sure why it necessarily would create an advantage to you to bring them both together, other than you just have to do less loops. Having them apart does give you the opportunity, as I think you speak to in the next section, to have a go at one, possibly reflect on how that went for yourself, and then optimize for the next one. I think it boils down to, Harry, what you want to do, because there is no clear, yes, this is definitely the better route. There is simply there are going to be pros and cons in either direction. Really, you need to decide what's going to work best for you. So if you prefer just to get it all over with at once and boom, boom, it's done, you can speak to your recruiter and ask them if they'll bring it together into a split loop. If actually you'd prefer the opportunity to kind of do it separately, do one, maybe learn, and then optimize for the next one, then, that's what you can ask to do. They may refuse anyway to bring it together into a split loop anyway, but from an Amazon point of view, there's no advice that I can give you to tell you one versus the other would be more advantageous. I hope that helps in some way. I know it's not probably as conclusive as you would have liked. Okay, moving on then. Okay. Hey, Mike, is it a good sign if you already answered the interviewer's next question in your previous answer? The interviewer said, next question. Oh, you've already given me an answer to that in your earlier response. I don't really know, Mike, because I'm not sure whether you're talking about the actual interview question, tell me about a time when blah, 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 or whether you're talking about a follow-up question that they had planned to ask you within a particular kind of question of tell me about a time, but actually it turns out you've already covered that off. Sometimes interviews do that. They have like set follow-up questions and then discover that they can't ask them because you've actually put that into the main body of your example, which by the way is fantastic if you had already anticipated it. So I'm not really clear on which of those two scenarios are playing out. Either way, if you're giving an interviewer a whole bunch of information that they had planned to ask you, then it's a good sign that you are providing the type of evidence that they're looking for. Whether it's a good sign that the evidence itself is going to lead you to a positive outcome is impossible for me to say. And you've got a second part. The interviewer kept smiling. That's nice. He looked at his second screen where his metrics and questions were during your response. Second sign. No, don't read anything into it, Mike. Honestly, all of you out there, don't try and read between the lines, whether someone is smiling or whether they are poker faced, whether they're looking at their notes or not looking at their notes. It could mean a million different things and it could mean nothing. Please don't waste your time and energy trying to read into those things. It's not a useful use of time and energy. Number one, you probably won't be right. And number two, it's not going to make any difference to the outcome anyway. So you may as well think about what you're going to make your kids for dinner. It's probably a much more effective and efficient use of your little gray cells at that point in time. Okay, moving on to my next question then. Oh, Camlan, I'm afraid this falls into the category of far too specific a question for me to be able to answer. So business development manager role, nice. What is a day as a business development manager like? I don't know, Camlan. I was never a business development manager, so can't answer that one. And what makes a business development manager good? I can't answer that one either because I was never a business development manager. You need to go and look at the job description because in the job description, it will tell you everything that they need you to do as a business development manager and what a good business development manager looks like. It's all in your job description. If you want to know how to deconstruct your job description, go check out my playlist, our playlist, which is me doing live deconstructions of job descriptions to be able to match the leadership principles to the language used in the job description. Best way to get the answer to that is to go to your job description and deconstruct it. And maybe also, Cameron, you might try reaching out to some business development managers who are already in Amazon doing business development and asking them that question. Because if anyone's going to know, it's going to be someone who's actually an Amazon business development manager. Try that one. You'd be surprised. You might get some responses. Oh, I love these ones. Oh, Adebayo. Hello. You bought our LP package and you got an offer. That makes me so happy. Thank you so much for coming on and letting me know. This is the fuel that keeps Yevgeny and the team and myself going when our candidates come and tell us about their successes. For some people, it's literally life-changing, which is just so exciting that you can be part of that. So Adebayo, honestly, bless you for coming on and letting me know. I'm super, super grateful. Wishing you a fantastic Amazon career. Yeah, good luck. Thank you. Take care. Okay, what else do we have? All right, this is interesting. George, hello. You'll have a loop at the end of July for a NDE2, which I assume is a Network Development Engineer 2. During the loop, I will be asked about salary expectation. If so, how can you answer this kind of question? So I will be asked is a statement, and I'm wondering whether you actually mean to question me. Will you be asked about salary expectation in loop? Because the answer should be no. It kind of depends on kind of what country you're interviewing in. In the vast majority of countries, the hiring manager and anybody in the loop will not ask you about salary expectations. That is the role of the recruiter to ask you about your salary expectations. Now, there's always an outlier, and I do know of a couple of examples from people interviewing in India where hiring managers have had that direct conversation with them, but I do believe that's an outlier. I never hear that coming from any other country in the world. So no, you shouldn't expect that conversation in loop. You should expect to have that conversation with your recruiter. And if you are headed into your interview at the end of July and you have not yet had that conversation with your recruiter, I suggest you do it and do it relatively quickly. because you want to make sure that you are actually spending your time applying for a role that's going to pay you what you want to be paid. You don't want to be interviewing for something and discovering at the end of it that they can't pay you what you need to be paid, because that'd be a waste of everybody's time. How can you answer this type of question? You have to do your research. You have to have a look at the market and see if you can identify what the general range of compensation is for a network development engineer in your particular region. Now, if you're in the US, you're very lucky, because the US is very well served for that type of information. You can go to levels.fyi. You can go to teamblind.com, where lots of techies post their compensation offers. You can go to payscale.com, which I also think serves the US very well. If you're not in the US, people like me, I'm afraid it's a bit more sucky in terms of the information that's available. Most of us are going to end up having to maybe get something from teamblind.com, go through Glassdoor, which isn't great, but it's better than nothing. Scrolling for other roles that may be publishing compensation bands where this one doesn't. And then finally, you just have to decide what you want to earn. So in terms of the conversation, what you should be telling your recruiter is, I've done my research and I'm expecting a compensation that comes between this point and that point. Are you going to be able to achieve that? And hopefully they'll say yes. The compensation kind of bandings that we have does run somewhere between this point and that point. If they say no, that's another issue. So you have to think about that. But you also want to have, if you get the role, a view in your mind of how much you want to get paid. And if they can't make that number, be willing to walk away. But have the conversation with your recruiter as soon as you can, but do your research first and have a view of the scale from here to here that you expect them to come in. Hope that helps. Hey VJ, what if you actually don't have an example for a question asked in the loop? Can you ask the interviewer to change the question, say in a rare situation they want? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, VJ. And this is our coaching in day one careers, that you're better off to be totally honest and say you don't have a good example rather than give them something that's rubbish and doesn't really do you any justice. So the tip on this one is that you should say, I don't have an example that exactly matches that situation, but I have one that maybe comes close, if you do have one that comes close, and then explain them at a very high level, the one that comes close, and just say, is it okay if I use that example? They may say yes, because the slight difference maybe doesn't matter in terms of where the difference lies, and they feel they're going to get what they want. It may be that where there is the difference, actually, that's kind of the crux of what they're trying to understand, and the example won't work for them. If they say, no, that's not going to work for me, then at that point, exactly as you say, VJ, my coaching would be to say to them, in which case, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my opportunity. I really don't have a good example for that question. Could I have another one? And like you say, you can use it. You just need to use it sparingly. Once, no problem whatsoever. Twice, okay, but definitely no more than twice, because if you do it too many times, it's going to look like you just don't have a kind of a history of really high performing examples, which is exactly what they're looking for. I hope that helps. Right. Let me so there's a question here from Tatenda. I'm so sorry if I've pronounced your name wrong, Tatenda, who has used the super chat function. So I need to bring you up. Here we go. So, lovely profile picture. That's nice. Tatenda's just used the super chat function, which basically is make a small donation, and then that promotes your question right to the top so I don't miss it. So if you have a question that you're desperate for me to answer, and there are quite a lot here, chuck that in and I will prioritize it for you. So let me have a look at this question. You have an L4 phone interview tomorrow, Tech U, Solutions Architect. You're worried about the tech bit. Can you still go to loop if you don't answer all of the questions? Okay, so bear in mind, I have not run tech parts of interview process. So this is not from personal experience, but I can tell you kind of on a process basis. you don't always have to get the answer absolutely right. What they're looking for in most cases is how you're thinking about the answer. So make sure you ask clarifying questions. Make sure that as you're giving your answers, you're talking them through your thinking, because you may not get to the absolute right answer, but they may still see someone who thinks really critically, asks the right questions, travels down multiple paths to optimize the outcomes. So I would say, yes, you don't have to get tech interviews 100% right in order to be passed through loop. But you do need to show that kind of critical thinking, investigative thinking, that type of thing, in order to convince them that even though you got the actual answer wrong, you're still thinking and critically analyzing as an Amazonian would need to. I hope that answers your question. Okay, let me jump back up to the top and try and re-find my place, which I'm terrible at. This thing always jumps all over the place. So, oh, there we are. I found it. Okay, I haven't read this whole question yet, but I feel it's going to be an interesting answer. So you have a question, Mr. Mahmed22. Why does Amazon focus on leadership principles so much? Do they want all leaders in the team and no disciplined followers? Okay, so you need to think about leadership in a more broad way. So being a leader isn't about being a manager. Being a leader is about being a thought leader. You can be a thought leader and be an L4 in an organization with 12 levels, because they want people who are thinking about the business, who are showing mental leadership in terms of how to serve the customer and how to do things better. So the leadership principles are not principles of management. The leadership principles are it's like the 10 Commandments. How do we believe that people who follow oh my God, I'm not sure I like this analogy that I've just taken myself down to, but how do we want people who are part of our religion to behave? So whether it's the 10 Commandments, the pillars of Islam, whatever it is, right? What makes a good Jew? What makes a good Christian? What makes a good Muslim? What makes a good Amazonian? These are not tests for what makes a good imam or what makes a good rabbi or what makes a good priest, right? The leaders. These are the structures and frameworks for how a good Amazonian should think and act. It's a different way of thinking about the word leadership. It's not about management. It's about everybody is a thought leader in that organization, which is why they've been such a successful organization, because even the followers who are working as direct reports are still mental thought leaders coming up with ideas. Jeff Bezos did not come up with all of the incredible ideas that have driven Amazon to where they are today. It is the disciplined followers that worked for Jeff Bezos that came up with those ideas. I hope that makes sense. And I apologize for all of you atheists out there. I appreciate that analogy did not work at all for any of you, but hopefully at least you get it in theory. Okay, let's move on there. Oh, okay, Sam, you're back. So the recruiter said they're concerned about your people management in your answers. Any ways to overcome this? So if it's a people management role and you don't have examples of managing people, you'll have to think more laterally about the way that you've interacted with your peers and co-workers and helped support them in their development. That's the only way to overcome a block around a people management role when you have never been a people manager. So go back, Sam, and think about all of your time you've worked with colleagues, all of the times you've helped anybody, all of the times you felt someone was amazing at something and you got on board and helped them develop those skills further. Anytime you thought someone was in trouble and you jumped in and tried to support them and teach them skills. all of those things you're going to need to think about when it comes to people if you've not been a direct people manager. I hope that helps. Okay, hey Michael. So you got down leveled to an L5 and recycled. You got a new call with a new recruiter that had you apply for an L5. Any chance of leveling up to an L6? Have you ever seen anyone up leveled in general? Yes, we have seen people up leveled in general, but their story goes over a quite long period of time. So we had someone in who was a day one careers candidate who got rejected at L6 a number of times across 2 years, and then worked with us and managed to get themselves an L7 role. So it is definitely possible to get leveled up, but it's quite unusual for that to happen in a kind of a narrow time frame, because once a bar raiser has determined that you aren't raising the bar at a particular level, when a recruiter goes and looks at those notes, they're playing the odds, right? They're trying to fill their role. So they're going to be asking themselves, they've already been through one loop. A bar raiser has clearly defined and determined that they are not raising the bar at X level. If I was to take them through at that level, the more senior level, what are the odds that they'll raise the bar this time? Well, not very good, because a bar raiser's just said that they're not raising the bar. So I think statistically speaking, a recruiter would be very unlikely to pin their hopes on you being able to raise the bar at a level when quite recently someone validated that you can't raise the bar at that level. Now, second question, I think you're also intimating, is if you were to go through an L5 loop, what are the odds of you being up leveled at the end of that? Remote. Up levels don't happen very often. Down levels happen very regularly. Up levels don't happen very often. So, Michael, it just boils down to how much do you want to get into Amazon, and how much does it matter to you that you get in at a certain level? Because obviously there are very significant pay implications between going in at a higher level and a lower level. I hope that answers your question. Hey, Mike, just a quick one, Mike. No, I can't give you any guidance for total compensation for grad roles, L5, L6. Like, as I said, there are tens of thousands of roles in Amazon with different comp ranges, and it's around the entire globe. So I have no access to data points that you don't have access to. So I just thought I'd quickly mention that. Sorry, no, I don't have that data. Okay, moving on. Loads of questions. Okay, now I'm going to take a brief pause in proceedings and ask you a favor in return, which is, obviously, we put masses of effort, and believe me, massive effort goes into those little videos. They take me like a couple of days to do between the recording and the editing and blah, blah, blah. Huge amount of effort to bring you this channel. We do need something in return from you, which is, for every single video you watch, we really need you to either give us a thumbs up or to put a little comment in the comment section below. The reason why that is that's considered by the YouTube algorithm as a positive engagement signal. It lets the YouTube algorithm know the content is good and the content is reaching the right people. That then means we surface higher and even more frequently when people put in keywords for Amazon interview and all of the keywords associated with it. That will mean that this content surfaces more and better and more regularly to people looking for good Amazon interview advice. There is obviously tons of content on YouTube. A whole bunch of it is not as good as ours. Dare I say that? And if you believe the content is good, we really need you to support us. And hopefully it's not too big a ask just to give something a little thumbs up when you watch it. So to practice, I'm going to ask you to do that for this particular video. So I'm going to play a little video for a moment whilst you all go away and give this a little thumbs up. And hopefully you find this amusing. Because Yevgeny isn't here, I won't do the one with Yevgeny in it. I'll just do the one that's got me in it. And hopefully you find this amusing. Please do go and give us a thumbs up right now.
Like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, I like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, like the stream, oh like the stream, oh like the stream, like the stream now, like the stream now, like the stream now.
There we go. I hope you enjoyed that. I did. To be fair, when I originally created that one, which was a while ago now, I did not realize that the dancers are actually men. And it took my mum to point out to me that I had stuck my head on a bunch of men's bodies. So if you spotted that, I didn't. I don't know what that says about me and what it says about you, but there we go. Right. So I have had someone else drop in a super chat. So let's have a look. I haven't checked the question out yet, but let's have a look. Jeshuren, I hope I've pronounced that right. Apologies to your parents if I butchered that. You completed ASL5 loop. I'm not sure what AS stands for. Lots of acronyms at Amazon. Hiring manager feels L5, BR feels L4. Interesting that someone's given you that very specific information. Follow-up call scheduled with hiring manager's manager. What to expect in the call and most probable outcome. Can't possibly tell you what the most probable outcome is. What to expect in that call. They're going to be testing whether they agree with the hiring manager or whether they agree with the bar raiser, which inevitably means, and it depends on the type of role that you're going for. If it's a non-technical role, you should expect them to be asking you leadership principle questions. If you can find out what leadership principle questions or what are the more important leadership principles for the role, I think that would be very important. Good way of trying to make a guesstimate of that is to look at all of the different questions that were asked of you over the interview process and work out which leadership principles they are. The more repeated leadership principles between early rounds and loop, the more likely it is that those are the most important leadership principles. So that might give you some indication of where they might go in terms of behavioral. If you're applying for tech, you should probably prepare yourself for tech and behavioral questions. But you should very much, I guess, expect pretty much another interview along the lines of the interviews that you have already had. As I say, no way I can tell you the probable outcome. Oh, applied scientist. Okay. In which case, yeah, you should definitely prepare yourself for tech and non-tech questions. Fingers crossed for you. Fingers crossed. You're still in the game. That's the important thing to remember. I know it'd be a bit stressful having to go through yet another round when you thought you'd got through it all, but you're still in the game. And that's the positive side of things that you should be focused on. Okay. What else? Right. Got loads of questions. So I'm going to have to start being a little bit more selective. Okay. Right. I'll cover this one quickly. Rachel, hello, how you doing? So you have a loop scheduled for next week, but today your status changed on the website to no longer under consideration. Should I be worried? Does it mean you won't get the position? Right. That portal is about as reliable as a two-legged donkey. I put no stock in that portal whatsoever. So I would say to you, Rachel, until you hear from your recruiter that you are no longer going to loop, you're fine. You're still in the game. I put no stock in that system at all. It's a completely manually driven system, can go wrong in all sorts of different ways. So don't worry about it, Rachel. Just plan to go to loop until you're told otherwise. Good luck. Okay. Okay, going to do this one quickly as well. Hey, Rashani. So you have another round after completing the loop with an L7 leader. What does this mean? Could this be a bar raiser? What different things need to be kept in mind dealing with bar raiser? Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm not sure whether what you're telling me is that this is just a final round as part of your loop, and you seem to think that the order in which the interviews are happening is significant, and that once you've met with the L7 leader, you shouldn't be meeting with anyone else. Not entirely clear. So let me just clarify that. There is no specific order that you'll get interviewed in your loop. The hiring manager and the bar raiser could appear at any point. It's all just based on people's diary availability. So if it's just the case of that this is the last person in your loop that you were due to meet, then no, of no meaning whatsoever, and may or may not be the bar raiser. If you're telling me that you've been through an entire loop and then someone's called you or emailed you and told you you need to go and meet someone else, that means that they could not agree at debrief on a decision, and the bar raiser has decided that they want you to meet one other person in order to get a final opinion. So I think that's the two possible scenarios that you could be talking to me about. Not entirely clear. Final thing, what different things you need to keep in mind dealing with a bar raiser? Absolutely nothing. This is one of the myths that drives me absolutely potty and makes me completely furious. Your interview with your bar raiser is no different to your interview with anybody else in the entire process. Your bar raiser is looking for exactly the same thing as everybody else is looking for. They don't have any special leadership principles they're assigned. They don't have any special questions that they're assigned. There is nothing that your bar raiser is looking for that everyone else on the loop is not looking for. And then when it comes to debrief, your bar raiser is going to be reading everybody else's data anyway in order to make a decision, not just their own data. And everybody else is going to be reading the bar raiser's data. So don't believe anybody that tells you that there's anything special about your bar raiser interview. Please don't believe anybody who's trying to separate you from your money by saying they can teach you how to crack the bar raiser interview, because they're no more capable of teaching you that than they are capable of teaching you how to crack every single other interview. Please don't be separated from your money with false promises. Okay, hope that helps. Let's move on. Okay. You got rejected in a phone screen even after having a great performance for a role which you applied for. All right. So first question, Galshan, how do you know you had a great performance? I'm a little bit confused, because if you had a great performance, how did you get rejected? Who has told you that you had a great performance? Super confused by that one. Okay. Today you got an interview call for another role which you didn't apply for. What does that mean? So what that can mean is that the person that interviewed the first time said nice things about you, but thought that you probably weren't a fit for the role that they were interviewing for, whether you weren't a technical fit or whether the key leadership principles that they were really interested in you didn't perform all that well on, but they still thought that you had some potential. They would have captured that in their notes. So what then happens is other recruiters who are looking to fill roles go into the Amazon ATS. I'm sure you've all heard about the dreaded ATS with the bots. They go into the ATS system and they search it and they look for people with the skills that they're looking for. And a recruiter has obviously done that and come across your profile and has decided that based on your profile and based on maybe the notes from the first interview that you didn't make it through on, you look like a likely prospect for them and have invited you to interview. That's all it means. It's good news. Good luck. All right. So moving on then, moving on. Oh, that's great. Hey, Collins. You received an L6 offer for legal. Oh, again. These make me so happy. You are so welcome, Collins, and I'm so delighted for you. And legal roles are tough to get, actually. I've done quite a bit of bar raising on legal, and they are not easy. So you are so welcome, and I wish you a fantastic, long and successful Amazon career. And I very much appreciate you coming on to let me know. Again, it's made me very happy. Okay, what other question? Okay, all right, someone else was just asking me about bar raiser, so hopefully I covered that off a second ago. Okay. Hey, Tala, how are you? So will you be rejected if you ask too much for your salary compensation, or will they counter the offer? All right, so I'm not quite clear on the context here and whether you're talking to me about your original kind of salary expectations that you put in at the top of the funnel, or whether you're telling me that you're all the way to offer and they've made you an offer and you're now countering with something that is possibly too much high. So they're unlikely to reject you per se. What they might say is, okay, we can't meet these. Sorry, I'm assuming that you've made it through Loop and you've now got an offer that you want to then counter. So what they're probably going to say is, we can't meet that expectation. If they can't meet that expectation, and they will give you a final offer. And then it's up to you as to whether you accept that final offer or not. They're not going to say, Tala, how dare you ask for such an unreasonable request? We now withdraw our offer. They're not going to do that. But there will obviously be a point where they cannot go beyond, and they will simply tell you, this is our best and final, take it or leave it. And then it will be up to you to decide to take it or leave it. So hopefully I got the right end of the stick with that one. And that gives you some guidance. Okay. What else do we have? Yeah, this sucks actually. And funnily enough, I've had an Amazon recruiter message me and ask me, how does she deal with this situation? So your AWS interviewer canceled your phone interview twice at the last minute. And now a week after the recruiter didn't schedule a new time slot. Should you take it as a sign they aren't interested in you? I don't know if you should take it as a sign of that. It's either they're not interested in you, or it's that they are ridiculously busy. This, particularly if they're canceling at last minute, right? You wouldn't cancel something last minute if you knew you weren't interested in the candidate because it causes chaos in your diary. You would cancel it much earlier on, and then you've got that space in your diary to be used for something else. So aren't interested in you, maybe, are very, very busy, and possibly the recruiter has had to deprioritize this role in order to prioritize other roles that they're hiring for, is also a very real possibility. It may actually have nothing whatsoever to do with you and be much more about the resource availability and the prioritization of your particular rec in that recruiter's work stack. So what I would say to you, Asma, is just keep following up. Just keep following up. Don't harass your recruiter clearly, but, once every few days, check in. Can we reschedule? Here's my availability. Is perfectly reasonable. Fingers crossed. I hope they get back to you. Okay, moving on then. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is happening more and more these days. So you finished your loop 3 weeks ago. They said you raised the bar, but the position had been filled. This does happen quite a lot these days, far more than it did when I was there, but who knows why. Your recruiter told you she's waiting for approval for a similar position, what to expect. Okay, so I can't really tell you what to expect. I don't know whether she will actually get approval for a similar position. It sounds like a perfectly legitimate and reasonable kind of narrative from your recruiter that they're opening new recs and it's going to be at the same level, same type of role. I guess what I would say to you is we always advise people to kind of take ownership of their process. Don't just sit back and wait for your recruiter to find you another role, because they filled the role that they need to fill. They've ticked that box. You're not going to be a top priority for them unless they have another role that they need to fill, which you might be a good candidate for. So my guidance for you is, if you've been told that that someone is inclined to hire you, but there's just no role, go and apply for other roles in Amazon, because the recruiter will open up hire, see your notes, see that you had a positive outcome at Loop. And to my point a little bit earlier on, you look like a good prospect for them because they'll have a role that they want to fill. So don't rely on your recruiter. Go and apply for other roles directly through the portal, as well as staying in touch with that recruiter. I hope that helps. Okay. Okay. Dishme 2000. Another one. Role got filled a couple of days before your loop. Now 2 different managers want you in their team. They're both now going to be in the loop tomorrow and are competing. Any advantages? Not really. Not really. Like, you have to perform at the loop. End of story. They have to see you as being bar raising. There's no particular advantage. Other than if you are bar raising, hopefully there'll be 2 offers on the table rather than 1, and you get to choose, which is always nice if you have multiple offers. But in terms of just kind of the outcome of the loop, you're no more likely to be considered bar raising because there are 2 people split loop than you would be considered bar raising if you were just going into a loop with, excuse me, if you were just going to a loop with 1 team. Okay. What else do we have? Oh, we've got 8 minutes left, so I'm going to do a little bit of jumping to try and get down to the bottom. Okay, Derek. Hey, so you've got your Loop interview next week for an account exec. Should you focus on my employees as customers or end users? Your background is sales management. No, I wouldn't say your employees are customers. No, your customers are anybody who consumes your output. So there are lots of people who don't actually have end customers, like finance teams. Their customers are the kind of the marketing teams or the sales teams or the vendor management teams that they support because they're reliant on their outputs. Your staff, the people who work for you, are not your customers. They are your employees. So in a sales role, your customers are your end customers, right? So the actual people who you are selling to and are consuming and using your services. Hope that helps. Moving on then. School gone funny. Oh, someone else who's had their status change. Ignore it. Rachel, ignore it. As useful as a two-legged donkey. Okay, right. Moving on. Sorry, I'm quiet because I'm trying to find one that I can answer. I'm picking this one up because I have to laugh. Happy Gigi. Oh, Gigi, happy 4th. Now, people, I'm British. 4th of July, not such a great day for us. No, I'm joking. Clearly, over here, we don't care. Like, you're welcome to your independence. Absolutely. Happy 4th of July to all of you. And I guess I should have said that at the beginning of this, but because I'm British, it didn't even register with me. So happy 4th of July, all to my US viewers there. I hope you had a lovely day and had some nice barbecues and things like that. Okay, how to find hiring managers on LinkedIn, and can we escape recruiter step if hiring manager decides to hire? What will be the process decide to move forward? Okay. Right. You can't miss the recruiter step. That is a fundamental step in the process. What you can do is get your resume to a hiring manager. Hiring manager sees your resume and says, I like it. You need to apply. You have to apply through the portal, which means your resume will have to go to the recruiter for the role anyway. Now, what the hiring manager might do is tap the recruiter up and say, Alex, this is an R in your name, but I'm guessing that's probably an E. So yeah, Alex Kane, I've seen their resume. I really want them to apply. You can expect their resume to come through, and then I will be interviewing them. That's fine. So you're not missing the recruiter step per se, but you've already got hold of a hiring manager who's decided they want to interview you. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Yeah, this is a great question, Victor. Hey. So in some of my videos, I talk about 3 states of maturity of the business. Yes, I do. Everyone, that is in the Why Amazon video on my YouTube channel. Is it okay to ask the recruiter about what is the state for the role before the interview to prepare for best examples? Yes, I would absolutely do that. My tip for everyone is just to ask the recruiter as many questions as you believe are going to be helpful for you to prepare for the interview. Now, the recruiter may say, I'm really sorry, I can't answer that question for you, which is fair enough, but there are never going to be black marks for asking questions. So absolutely, Victor, if you want to use that structure to help you prepare your Why Amazon question, then ask the recruiter and see what information they can get you. Okay, so I think I'm going to go for one more question, but don't go because, as I said, I do have an amazing freebie that you'll be very sorry if you miss out on. So let me just quickly pick. Yeah, okay, this is a good one. Alibor. Hey, you finished your phone interview, portfolio review. Okay, so maybe UX designer or some kind of a design type role. with the hiring manager, you feel like you need more time to rehearse your behavioral questions and a deck for the loop. Will it look bad if you ask for 2 weeks prep? No, it doesn't look bad. Again, our guidance at Day One Careers is you want to go into an interview as best prepared as you feel you can be. And you're better to take some time to prepare properly than to rush into something and not be prepared. Now, bear in mind that that does come with some risk, okay? Because the Amazon interview process is a conveyor belt of people joining the process at the kind of the first round phone screen, going along whilst other people are at second round, when other people are at loop. So if you take a bit of extra time to get prepared for your loop, you do run the risk that someone may get the job before you. But again, from a Day One Careers perspective, we think that's a risk worth taking, because although a not inclined is not a permanent black mark against your name in Amazon, it absolutely isn't. Nonetheless, it is always better to not have not inclines on your history in the hire system. So we would say, yes, take that bit of extra time. That would be our guidance. Okay, so we are there for time, and I have to take my daughter to her dance class. So before I do that, and I forgot to pick up to do the ticker tape, so Yevgeny's going to kill me for getting the ticker tape. Right, check this out. Freebie from Day One Careers here. This is a freebie for a taster customer obsession course that we provide totally free. It shows you the 4 facets of customer obsession. The leadership principles have multiple facets in them. The facet is a learning model that is unique to us at Day One Careers. We invented it. If anybody else is using it, it's because they copied it from us. And it's a easier way of understanding the different dimensions of the leadership principles. So this will show you the 4 dimensions for customer obsession. It also will tell you what the interviewer is actually looking for in your example for customer obsession. So literally you can use it as a tick box. Do I have this in my example? And my husband's calling me, so let me get rid of him. And then finally, it shows a mock interview. I was going to say you interviewing me, but clearly that's not right. Me interviewing me, different hair, makeup, clothes, blah, blah, blah. And you can see how it all comes together in interview. And on top of that, it gives you access to our Discord community, where there are over 2,000 candidates for Amazon interview, all chatting to each other, all offering to do mock interviews with each other, all sharing their experiences. It's amazing, totally free, just to get access to that community, because they're so super helpful and gorgeous to each other. So please do go get that. And hopefully you enjoy it. Thank you very much for joining today. I have to now go, but for those of you who got roles, congratulations. So delighted for you. For those of you who have interviews coming up, cross fingers for you. I hope it goes well. And if you all have any other questions, you can drop questions into the comments boxes here on YouTube, or join our Discord community. And hopefully there'll be a whole bunch of people there who can possibly help you out with that question too. Take care. Have a happy 4th of July and take care and be safe. Bye.